And good evening and welcome to your view with me on JJ Tabane. Of course, the big story tonight, the coronavirus increased levels, or rather victims, so to speak, or cases that are being reported. And of course, we are waiting also to hear from the Northwest whether indeed there is anything there worth worrying about. But as we have been saying throughout the day here on Newsroom Africa, just take care of the basic hygiene of just washing your hands, man. So basic, hey? So basic, but people actually don't do it. You find a person who has a straight face going in and out of the bathroom without vying the basins, and you wonder what on earth, you know, it's supposed to be so basic and so on, and we are now being reminded. I was just joking there with Kathy to say, we now know there's something called the Hygiene Council. Can you believe it? There's a council that exists. His job is hygiene only, and they are now coming out of the woodworks, you know, to know that they exist. They're all over now, you know, guiding everybody about how to do things. So do take care and be alert about what is going on. Be aware of your own surroundings there. But I want to talk about higher education. Yeah, last night, of course, heated discussion with the student leaders around the table, as well as Professor Habib. And one of the things that came out, two things stood out that we need to attend to. Firstly, the issue of academic exclusions. The issue of academic exclusion is very serious because there is a balance we need to strike between excluding people who have failed once or twice, sometimes even thrice, and those you know, who in fact don't have the resources but are passing. But also there's an issue of what we call academic rehabilitation, and Professor Habib gave an example about himself. I know with my own example, where, you know, I failed just about everything at first year, you know, just failed, basically. You know, and because I had registered the wrong thing. You know, I registered, I mean, I don't understand, I don't know what kind of medical doctor I was going to make, you know. But I wanted to be that, so I had to do BSc, no Maganja. And I failed. And then the university found a way to get me to come back and do something else. You know, which I don't regret at all, right? Imagine if and there was a rule at the University of the Limpopo, then University of the North, it was called Rule A19. If you fail everything, you are a goner, you are gone, you out you go, right? So the issue is that sometimes, because of many factors, including poor career guidance, people may choose the wrong thing, right? How many chances do you give them to get it right? 2 chances, 3 chances, I don't know, but it's an issue that, you know, the academic world must look at carefully and also complement it with proper career guidance. So that's a big issue there, and students seem to be an extreme that says it doesn't matter how many times you fail, and it can't be like that. If you fail too many times, it means that you are probably doing the wrong thing. You must just go and do something else. Not everybody has to have a Ph.D. from a university, you know. Not everybody has to go to university to start with. There are other things you can do with your life. You can go to the TVET college. You can go to, you know, short courses. You can just go into entrepreneurship. You don't have to insist on going to university. When I get 4th year, there are people during our times, what they did our first year, 5 years. I did our first year. Or tested the first year is okay. Half a lot of agriculture, I go bips, half a lot of bips, or particularly bips who pale, but who the baby, who palo fail. Then you are in the wrong place. You must insist. There's not enough resources to go around to insist on just failing in perpetuity. But of course, the students raise an issue about why are these people failing. You must attend to that. But at the end of the day, you can have as many excuses as you like, and you can give as much support as you want. He must do something else. The second key is violence. Right? And we'll be talking to things about Lamine at the bottom of this hour. He was being sentenced just today, 2.5 years in prison. That has never been the habit. Over the years, whether students were involved in protests and what, there has never been a habit to press charges until a person is sentenced, like a Kakesha, even end up in prison, etc. What balance do we strike to make sure that students understand that there is a right to protest, and that they embrace that right, they exercise it, because frankly in South Africa they are going to need it. When they live there and they go into the community, they are going to need it. But at the same time, It's now after 94, 26 years, right? Do we create a new culture, a new human rights culture about how to engage with each other as stakeholders, how to protest effectively? Because, you know, sometimes an ineffective protest, a silent protest, away with things. You know, people don't listen to you. They just laugh and they just take pictures and say, oh, there was a protest, and finished. And so people then believe they must do something a lot more dramatic in the protest in order for them to be heard, because when you go to meetings and sometimes there's just nothing that happens. There are universities where vice chancellors haven't met with their SRCs for years. And I'm talking about meaningful engagement. I'm not talking about meeting them in a corridor and making a joke about the fact that their assignments are outstanding. I'm talking about sitting with them seriously as a student government, and you being the government, overall government of the university, and finding a way, what one can call a social compact. That's what's necessary now. It's not to look down at students. I mean, that would be a mistake. Because in fact, some of them have found that they can make more sense than some of the council members. Some of the council members are just passengers. That's why some of these universities are in such chaos. Some council members, without their validity documents, are cancelled. When make the fellow who know, hey, student, hey, go now to hang, hey, no, right? There was an era in our times when student voices didn't matter. We had to literally get councillors, which were appointed by the apartheid government, to resign and get out of power, and then put in place things that were used to be called broad transformation forums, which began to ingrain in the minds of university management that you need to take into account other stakeholders, particularly students, and their views, even if you may not agree with them. Even if you may think these are just a word behind the ears guys, what do they know? I mean, they're just, after all, this one, and they look at you funny, I mean, this one is in second year, has failed last semester, and is coming to council meeting to tell us stories. They have that attitude, they look down at their students. Similarly, students have got to understand, you cannot carry on like it's 1976. Cannot happen. You are going to have better strategies to shape how students' voices can be heard. And those are the balances we need to strike. There's no black and white and a blanket thing where you just condemn everything or you accept everything. So there's a need at these higher education institutions to build bridges among stakeholders. Let's take a look at what Professor Habib had to say.
There are 4 substantive challenges that are associated with all of the struggles. The one is historical debt.
Okay.
People can't register because they owe
their money from last year.
They owe the money from years before. Yes. The 2 is the problem of the missing middle. These are people who are too rich for NSFAS, but too poor to pay. That means they're above the 350,000, and they don't have money for universities. The 3rd is accommodation. Now, in rural areas of the country, accommodation is a supply. So you go to Toyando, there's just not any buildings there. But in a place like Braamfontein, in Johannesburg, or even UKZN, or even Cape Town, or even Port Elizabeth, there's enough supply of beds, but it's owned by the private sector. So if you look at VETs, we think that there's a demand for about 15,000. We have 6,500 beds as VETs, and we have another 11,000 accredited accommodation in the private sector. So we've got more demand, more supply than required. What our problem is we don't. The students who need to effectively access those accommodation can't afford them or don't have the resources for them. Now the question you'll ask is, why don't they have the resources for them? There's 2 roles. Either they're in the missing middle, which means they haven't got a scholarship, or in the WITS case, which those student leaders are silent about, is the 200 that are struggling, most of them are people who've lost NSFAS. Now if they've lost NSFAS
because of academic reasons,
they must have failed more than once. That means they failed twice or more. Now the question that emerges is, how often do you carry on paying, using public money to pay for somebody who repeatedly fails? NSFAS says 1 time. Is it 2? Is it 3? Are there any limits? Saus and the student leaders reject N+1.
All right, and of course, the students retorted yesterday in a roundtable, a few of them around the table. The spokesperson of the National Student SRC also had this to say.
The heart of student politics across the country has been the immediate question of the right to learn. In choosing to adopt these tactics that have forced institutions to shut down and to prevent learning from happening in its usual way, protesting students, unfortunately, have come under fire for interfering in the larger community, the 95% that Habib speaks about. But anyone who takes time to listen closely to what students are saying will know that their actions are not ill-considered. In fact, their actions are geared towards a system that they characterize as violent and speak of as experiencing in violent forms every day. The right to learn is compromised every day for poor black students by a system that is driven and shaped by business principles. So it would be disingenuous for Habib to come and want to disintegrate a 5%, which is the poor black minority in the system, who happen to be disenfranchised by the late payments of NSFAS, by the accommodation crisis that many institutions are experiencing across the sector. So when Habib must also equally be reminded, he's a VC of VET and not of the country. There's situations where you find that homelessness that is happening, for instance, at the University of Zululand is far removed from a situation of failing. There are instances where you have regulatory policies in universities, where universities, for instance, place you in accordance to some kind of an GPA you would have accumulated to enter res. You must have gotten a 70 or a 65 or so forth. But what we need to be doing is to question what is the core function of a university, is to provide not accommodation. The core function is teaching and learning. The issue of students repeating, it's natural. There are many factors that happen in universities. You know, there are students who fail. The way Habib is speaking, and Prof. Habib rather speaking, is from an ivory tower. They sit in their ivory towers as vice chancellors in those various offices, and they're far removed from the ground. There are students who are being academically excluded on the basis that they've been depressed. They have fallen out due to depression, mental health issues. There are students who, there was a video circulating at his very same institution of students sleeping in the library, sleeping in the toilet. That very same student is expected to perform academically well.
All right, because a heated debate that will not go away. Of course, at the bottom of this hour, we took it into Tabane himself come and tell us what his perspective are. Clearly, there is a need for some kind of a social compact at our universities. I just don't understand. Why is it that this has now become a national annual ritual? That every February there'll be chaos. Students will come and say, there's no accommodation. Didn't the universities know how many people they are expecting? And what plans were made then in November, in October, when we knew, we knew there was going to be 5,000 new students. But in February, we were all over the show. We don't know what on earth is going on. And now I'm beginning to think that this so-called free education is fake. At least according to what Habib was saying. He said, no, this thing, missing middle is half the students. So now, there is the Zuma magic now. If Zuma magic, he says, hey, there's free education for all. It's only half of the student population. That's why this place is up in arms, right? So now, is the administration going to relook at this thing to make this free education actually real? Or must we just wash our hands, forgive the pun, so to speak, and just hope for the best? Every year we're going to be faced with this. At the bottom of this hour. Stay tuned.